Hi, everybody. It's Terry from Morning Dewdrops by Terry Stevens. Today we are going to have so much fun. Easy on the pocketbook, easy on time, easy on experience. Welcome to the Art of Doing show for Jamie Ray Vintage Retailer. We are located in Central Louisiana, for those that don't know me. Now, today we're going to be exploring Pantone's 2023 Color of the Year Viva Magenta. We'll be looking at color selections for that they've also suggested, as well as others that complement these colors. What is Pantone? Pantone is 1963. Pantone came out with a universal color system that brands and manufacturers can use worldwide to get that exact color. And today, graphic artists of all kinds also use those colors. We are going to be doing accents, home decor accents, using some of our selections with JRV Stencils and Decoupage. We'll be looking at inspirations. You'll see that there's something for everybody because you can go minimal, you can go boho, you can go eclectic, you can even go traditional. It's up to your tastes. So this is the color palette that we came up with, and the middle color would be the Viva Magenta. Now, one thing about this, any variations of that color, all the way to a dark cherry, are very popular. And what's great about it is you can use your cottage color collection from DIY Paint, curated with Jamie Ray, to use actually 3 of those colors with the haint blue, and the background is the vintage pink, but you can also use gray skies. And the other one, vintage mint, can also be used, which we will also take a look at later. Now, for neutrals, there's a sand or tanned color, and then there are 2 what they refer to as like a khaki color or a burlap color, light or dark. And then we added this color, which is a lavender. So there we have it. Let's take our first segment. It's only a 1.5-minute clip, but it will dive in and get us to where this came from and how it was created and why it was chosen from Pantone. We're stenciling smalls for home decor with our inspiration coming from Pantone's Color of the Year 2023 Viva Magenta. We'll do a comparison of their palette to our palette we're using today. CDA Interiors published an online article and are using a dark magenta. Magenta Verse, coined by Pantone, says it is vim and vigor and wit and audacious. Magentaverse, according to Pantone, is a physical realm to examine the connection between nature and technology. According to CDA Interiors, Magentaverse is versatile, and there's something in this color for everyone. The Architect's Newsletter also published an article online saying that Viva Magenta could be the year for furnishings, such as in this stool. They also mentioned artwork and on this chair. We're looking at stenciled frames in dark cherry and books with the fuchsia. Our small decors, even with a teal to be super, super bold. This color is brimming in nature. Okay, so we got a little background on that, but I have to show you what my inspiration was for the frames. So the Milieu, it's a magazine. This is the winter 2023 edition. In there, they had this painted frame. It is a Casa Gusto, and these are made to order, custom, hand painted, and the frames they're using are probably the whole thing is probably the wood, but I fell in love with it because you can do so much with it. And I discovered this by accident because I had a really large frame, and what I was putting into it wasn't big enough. So, of course, they use mats, but I used it as an extension of the frame. And even though some of ours are not wide enough to stencil the wooden part, you can go with the same color. This is like an apothecary with a dark cherry, and then you have the little copper bees. And when doing something like this, we did two botanicals. When doing something like this, if you'll keep the pattern the same and the colors the same, that will be your uniform for all of it to flow easily. And let me tell you something. These are wooden frames, glass. They already had the mat in them. This one doesn't have a non-glare glass, but the other one did. And you know how expensive custom framing is. Well, I just went to our vintage markets and I got all kinds of frames. Some of them even had, it was a navy mat, and I just painted over it. Like this one, this would be a triple matted and professionally done, and the frame is pretty big. So I got this for under $10, and you can hang it this you can hang it this way, but don't think that you can't buy some for what you need and flip them. And once you put all this back together, you are literally doing your own custom framing. The smaller frames were under $5. And this was a custom frame, and it's got a circular double mat that we did in the teal and the dark cherry. So be on the lookout if you like this look for things like that. And let's look at our supplies, and then we are going to see how we did the frames. So first of all, you have, we use Plaid Mania. That is Jamie Ray's, our JRV stencil with Vintage Retail Therapy by Mara. And we just picked one of the stripes. They have, you could do it plaid. That would be so cute. And you can also, and you don't just have to do stripes. You can do a pattern. So this is another one. You could do the grain sack stripes. There's 3 in there. And I was working on, this is the French trellis, and it comes with 3 small stencils as well that you can put in the middle of the trellis. And I was working with that on one of them, and then I remembered the little bee. So the bee, the bee is on there too in a copper patina. So be sure that you have maybe some painter's tape for your stencils, and of course your JRV brushes. And you'll also need, well, I had it, but a piece of cardboard to offload your paint as you are stenciling. Now, let me just make sure I've gone over all the supplies. I think that's it. Okay, so let's go to our next segment to see what we did to. What you'll find is that I've already painted the wooden frame, and now I've also painted the mat board in the same color, and now we are stenciling. That's what we're doing. And so here's how we would go about doing that with some tips. First, I'm taking a mat that I painted in an apothecary color, and I'm using a dark cherry along with one of the stencils from the Plaid Mania. And it's real easy to line these up, and as mentioned, you can also use the grain stripe stencil from JRV. And always remember that you want to offload. We're using a JRV stencil brush. These are excellent brushes. JRV stencils are 15 millimeters thick, which allows for easier cleanup, easier stenciling, and very difficult to damage, and has excellent detail. Here, we're lining up from the bottom so that we can complete the stenciling on this mat. This is an 8 by 10 mat, and we're through with our stripes. Now we're going to use a copper patina and stencil on the little bee that comes with the French trellis. I like working with these stencils. I did not measure those stripes. I just went across from the stencil, and also I'm just looking where I could place this bee. I have the first one done, and I like to use the borders, if at all possible, of the stencils themselves, so that, and I'm using these stripes to help make the bees somewhat be the same, but I'm not measuring. It's not that it is an intentional randomness on our mat board. Now I'm taking the little bee down the side, and I decide to line the top of the stencil with the opening of the frame, and I do that at the top and the bottom on the left and the right, and then do one more in the center along the sides. Now I'm stenciling the last bee on the right side in the center of that side, and here is the mat completed. I also took 100-pound paper and painted it with the copper patina. It gives you more variation and a painterly effect that you can put behind your mat if you were to use this for something like the pressed flowers that I've used. Okay, so I was looking, and here's an example of the pressed ferns and some type of mum, yeah, and pulling out those colors on the copper patina background. Now, the smaller frames, what you wouldn't stencil maybe, but you could stencil that back and have that if it was minimal. And you can preserve and dry these flowers yourself. anytime I get some from the grocery store, or my children sends them for Mother's Day, I just line them out on newspaper print and stack them up, layer them up with about 4 sheets of newspaper print in between. And you don't need this because you can just stack them up and then put books on top of them, which I do. But when I was thrifting the other day, I found some very thick plexiglass, and I got 5 or 6. I mean, this is heavy enough for a shelf, and one of them was even round. So I actually put that down and then put all the books on top. And pressed preserved foliage and flowers are very in, and you don't have to go out and buy them. Within 2 weeks, some of these are dry, especially the pansies, and that is what is growing right now. So when we looked at these colors, let's go over some more examples because, for example, I found this, already had it, but this would be the Viva Magenta with like the emerald green. So again, you can go minimal or you can go bolder, just depending on your choices. So what I did is I also like to get inspirations from magazines, as you well know. And in that same magazine, they might not even realize that they did it. Well, I really don't know. But this is minimalist, okay, with a cream color, but they're using the magenta. And it's part of nature. You'll find it in a lot of the flowers. So this, and look, it's not just this year. If you go with that in mind and you start looking at the magazines you may have at home, this is the Flea Market Home and Living from 2021, May 2021. But first of all, they hung some books. I think that's so cool. In some of the colors we're talking about. But look at this library that they did. That is exquisite. So that would be an example of really bold. You can also go, this is the Vintage Home Country Living and first edition. And you can also use, like you saw in that video, you can also use these tones muted. I sounded like a cow, but muted. In certain patterns and textures. And of course, you have throw rugs, pillows, artwork. There's so many ways. Now, this is one of my favorite combinations that we're looking at. I love this Viva Magenta with some of the pale pinks and the pale blue and the pale green. And this is in Flea Market Home and Living. And this one is pretty recent. This is April of 2023. Okay, so and if you love boho, you're gonna love this. This is in the Flea Market Home and Living, and it's January 22. So this artist it's an artist in bloom, but there you find some bohemian, but look at the colors, the teals and the deep cherry and the magenta color itself, along with the paler colors that we've been talking about. So I hope this inspires you. I was also looking around my house, and look what I found. Y'all have all seen these little Reader's Digest books from a long time ago, condensed Reader Digest. But there this is, on a pale blue background, like the Hank blue, with the dark cherry. And I did a little swatch, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So off I went on my books. When looking at this, and with all the colors that we have also shown, I went ahead and some of the same colors are on here, but these colors can be popped with teal, emerald green, royal blue, and even navy. And even in your bright yellow and your mustard yellow. So there you go. That's pretty nice. Along with your lavenders and your pinks, of course. So with that book in mind, I gathered some small books from around that I had thrifted, and used the same pattern, okay? The same pattern of stencil. And remember, we're using all of these color combinations, so it's good to have some cohesiveness. And this I used was the Gatsby. JRV with Vintage Retail Therapy with Myra. Or Mara, excuse me, Mara. And this is the decoupage, or part of the decoupage sheet, that we also used from Jamie Ray Vintage. And this is the hand painted florals. And I'll tell you, they're all beautiful. But that baby blue would also be beautiful. But we used and I just think this is adorable, and it's so easy. The book was gray, a dark gray. So I painted it with the college color vintage pink, but I didn't paint the whole thing. I left brush strokes and everything in that. And so once it was put on the book, it was also distressed a little bit. But the colors in nature that you find with your Viva Magenta will all work. Mother Nature never fails. So you can look around for that eye too. And you can have florals of any kind live around your house. So let's take a look at what we did and some tips on our little books that I fell in love with. Because I painted this one, I painted this totally magenta. And even there, these two books were really, really slick, and they had some weird thing on them, and so I made them pretty. So don't overlook books. A lot of times you can find them free at your library when they're giving them away after a certain period of time, or during some type of drive or something like that. So here are how we did the books for our stenciling. So now let's stencil and decoupage our books. We're using the stencil Gatsby, and you'll notice that I'm placing it in different areas on the different books, but I'm always making sure that the end of it is showing on the book, that is here to the right. And this one I took all the way to the fold of the spine. I'm making sure I offload as I stencil, and this is what this one looks like. And then I flip the book over to the spine using any portion of that stencil and go ahead and stencil that spine. This was a slick book, it was an old book, and I went ahead and painted the whole thing in the fuchsia. So there's that book. And this book is treated a little bit differently. I first painted it pink, but it had a turquoise spine. So I only went to that portion of the book. Here's the dark cherry with the apothecary, and this is the fuchsia with the baby blue. And now we'll go on to the decoupage one we did. This is painted in the JRV Cottage Color Vintage Pink. I'm applying the decoupage medium. I did not paint the whole book because I wanted it to look worn as it is. And the decoupage paper I've already torn, and I put it over that medium wet. I usually do the iron-on method, but this is such a small area. And then I'm coating the top of it with some more of the decoupage medium, and making sure that it's secure. And when we look at it, I have torn part of the decoupage paper itself because I want it to look like not as old as the book, but I'm going to deliberately put a few little scratches into the decoupage paper as if it had also been worn over time. I also do this with another portion of the paper on the back of the book as well. And then I just let that dry, and this is how it looks. Okay, aren't they cute? And these are a cute size. You can have them like that. You can stack them. You can put a little object on them, and it's subtle changes in pattern, bringing you what color you want in your home decor. And I love the fact that this one had the binding already in turquoise, and we painted it the pink and used that stencil in teal or turquoise. And so what we have is a collection that you might not, without having already done this, realize that they would all go together on a gallery wall. We have two botanicals. We have some pressed flowers, like right there, okay? And even with, I'm still here, even with this color to be added, you could put them, because of the fact of the pattern that we have and knowing what colors you can choose from. So, okay, yes, all right, like $5 with a little bit of paint. I didn't have to pay much for the botanical prints. I think $3, and I got them locally at one of our treasure chests vintage stores in our area. And these two frames were like $4 to $7 a piece, and they came with the mat. Pricing a mat standard size, small, like a 5x7 is $5 or $6. So that's without someone having to cut it if it should be an odd shape, like this oval one that is triple. I cannot wait to do something with that, and I'll be sure and show you when I do. So first of all, before I forget, because I always forget and everybody keeps asking, I've had several people ask. So this is our website, morningdewdrops.com, and this is where you can find us on Facebook for a lot of these ideas with Jamie Ray Vintage Stencils and Decoupage. Now, our last segment is totally different, but last month we stenciled the Bloomsbury way. And I showed y'all at the very end a little green chair. Now that chair and the Queen Anne desk are all use the diamond JRV stencil, and I used 5 shades of green with a little bit of gold accents, and it's painted in such a way that the desk comes from the 1940s. So let's just go with that. And with that piece already being 60, 80 years old, you would have it maybe painted and then painted again, and then where it was in the sunlight positioned in your home, some of the paint would have faded, where in other areas it had not. And the aging of where you would have handled it would be a little bit darker. So that's the look we were going for. And so here is the little chair with the desk that y'all had been asking about. It's in our new booth at Pineville Treasure Chest 2, booth 24. So let's go to the store. Okay, so this is our new booth, and we put this Queen Anne desk and chair in it yesterday, and the top was done with the JRV stencil diamond, and we used 5 shades of green, and then took some of those diamonds and foiled them in gold, and that is the matching chair that some of you have already seen. So that is going back to that Bloomsbury stenciling that we had on the show last month. Okay, that is our show for today. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you picked up some tips on what you can do in your home decor with Viva Magenta. They are calling it Magentaverse because it goes from nature to technology, just like we're doing today. So I want to see you the first Monday of, oh no. I only come on once a month and I still can't get it straight. Okay. It's the first Tuesday of every month at noon right here on Jamie Ray Vintage retail page. Until then, check us out and enjoy this beautiful weather we're having. Until next time, bye. This is so much fun.